Okay. Craig, you're really testing it. 30 seconds.
The Borough Council meeting of February 10, 2020 will now come to order. Please rise to the pledge of allegiance led by Mayor Skets.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ritchie. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Ms. Dixon. Here. Mr. Fasay. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mrs. Wilford. Here. Mayor Speck. Here. Solicitor Garvin.
Here. Okay. Tim, let's go out of order here, since McGraths are here. Why don't we jump to that, so that we can get that done and they can get out of here. So it'd be your motion on the second.
Not that I wouldn't want to stay, I just don't want to feel nervous when I'm sitting here in the audience.
That's cool.
A motion to adopt resolution number 2 of 2020, appointing Christine McGrath as tax collector for the Borough of Ingram, contingent upon her appointment of Jordan Tax Service as the deputy tax collector for the borough for collection of the borough's real estate taxes in accordance with provisions of section 901 of the Borough Code. The term of this appointment is for 2 years, beginning January 1st, 2020, and ending December 31st, 2021.
Motion's been made and seconded by Ms. Dixon. Is there any questions on the motion? Hey, Christina, you're okay with all the questions? Do you have any issues or questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Ms. Dixon. Yes. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
sorry.
Mrs. Wilford. Yes. Mr. Nucci.
Yes. Would you come up there and get sworn in, please?
Mind if I take a picture?
Do solemnly swear that I will word obey and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth, and that I will discharge my duties of Ingram Borough Tax Collector with fidelity. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And this is deputizing Jordan. Debbie, these copies are both the same, right? Is it
They're
one for us?
both the same, one we
One for us.
keep and one we send to you sign right there. And that just says that you're deputizing Jordan, and I'm telling them that you gave permission.
How fair are you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be in touch, and maybe you can stop up and we'll talk about what we need to do. I think you have to contact the school district also, since you're
Yeah,
on the tax.
unfortunately, you have to do that.
Right, so we'll go through
No
it.
problem.
Okay,
So
thank
once
you.
you get one, we'll, I'll
Okay,
let you
you're
know.
welcome.
Okay.
Have a great meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, you're welcome.
Okay. All right, now that's done. Do we have any requests for citizens to be heard today? Okay, engineers report, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to give a quick update on smoke testing that was done. I reviewed the draft report with Steve. One area that had a few minor issues was Joel Street. And since then, we actually had the sanitary sewer was manual line. So I'm gonna send somebody out with Steve either this week or next week and smoke those couple segments again to see if that lining actually helped that problem out. And then we'll file the report submitted.
Are those the only issues that need resolved on that project?
No, there's a handful of spots throughout the program.
Okay.
Is that something that should be told to the constituents of that area so that they're
Don't get alarmed.
Do you think we should submit,
Well, then maybe,
maybe maybe we can hang something on the,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. This, we can just put it in the doors. Just make sure Steve has a copy with the dates and everything. Once you get that, and we'll just put it, it's only gonna be a half a dozen houses or something, so.
yeah, and it's gonna be an
Yeah.
hour.
And we'll take care of that. Okay.
That works.
All right, any other questions for the engineer? Sharon, you have any?
I don't, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Committee reports, building and zoning code, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll read the ordinance, or the motion as in the agenda. A motion to advertise ordinance number 2 of 2020, amending chapter 185 zoning, articles 5 and 6, sections 185, 26, and 185, 37, to provide for amended requirements and restrictions for front side yard parking in the borough's R2 and R3 zoning districts. This ordinance will be submitted to Allegheny County Department of Development for their required review and comment in accordance with the municipality's planning code. The ordinance will be on April 13th, 2020 agenda for consideration.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mrs. Wolford. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes.
Okay, the other thing I just wanted to talk about briefly was the Berry Street. Of course, the stop sign is in there, Carol will expand on that. But the deal with the last house on the right of Main Street going up the hill, the hedges are a visibility issue at the intersection. And we weren't going to do a ordinance on that. We're going to use the state ordinance, which is it's a vehicle, Title 75 of the state ordinance, which is the removal of traffic hazards by property owner. The general rule is it the duty of the owner of real property to remove the property, any tree, plant, shrub, or other similar obstruction or part thereof, which is obstructing the view of any driver, constitutes a traffic hazard. And to go on, item B, notice of hazard. When the department or any local authority determines on the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation that a traffic hazard exists, it shall notify the owner and order the hazard removed within 10 days. And the issue was the stop sign going up Berry, and you're trying to look down Mainsgate on kind of traffic coming up. The hedges are an obstruction. And we did get Gateway to review it as it stipulates in the state ordinance. And just briefly, at the end of their investigation or project status report, they recommended the stop sign, of course, and in addition to the stop sign, the signage and pavement, making recommendations, it is also recommended that the shrubs on the property on the southwest corner of the intersection be removed due to the site difference or difficulty and deficiency that they cause the eastbound motorist. Then it goes on to say, as per the PA Title 75 ordinance, and there's an attachment with a drawing showing the hedges and the stop sign. The only other thing I think we have to do is address the parking issue from the stop sign coming back. And it's 15 feet, I believe, from the stop sign back. I think that's going to be good enough. I don't think we'll have to lose any parking spots over it. But that brings us up to date on, is there any other questions on, any questions at all on Barry? On the ordinance?
Have the property owner's been notified?
No,
Well, sort of, they were the people that were here complaining about it,
Yeah.
I mentioned about the hedges, he said, yeah, that's my property, and we mentioned at that time that there could be a problem.
But they haven't been.
No, because we were seeing if we needed to pass an ordinance or if we could use the other one.
and we also have to find out who's really authorized to enforce this, whether it's the police or the zoning or the code enforcement officers.
Okay?
Wait, and I wanted to make a motion to advertise 4 short, it's the ordinances. And I think everyone should have a copy in front of them. But what I did, what did we meet twice, Greg, so far? We had 2 committee meetings, and these are what the committee suggested we do on these 4 ordinances that are it's just catching up with the language. The first one is solid waste recycling, and I caught the whole ordinance is here. The only thing we wanted to change in that is number A. This is 154-18, solid waste recycling ordinance. The borough secretary is hereby authorized and directed to make reasonable rules and regulations for the operation and enforcement of this article as deemed necessary, including but not limited to, and then it goes on to say, we want to change the secretary so she don't have that responsibility to the borough council. Is there any questions on that? That's,
We motion separate.
You're gonna have to do 4 separate.
4 separate advertisements.
Yeah, well, we know we have, but we're just motioning and advertising.
Yeah, so do them separately, is there a
Yeah.
motion to advertise this one?
Okay, so it's a motion to advertise that ordinance. Do we have a second? Mr. Butler, any questions on that ordinance? Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Clifford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes.
Okay, and then the second one is buildings. This is your address that you put on the front, you're supposed to put on the front. And buildings numbering of, it's 64-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's all, the ordinance is printed out here. And what we want to do is add the following language at the end of 64-3, so I'll just read 64-3. Its location, materials, and size of numbers. The number assigned to each house, apartment, building, or other structure shall be placed in a conspicuous place on or over each front door, front transom bar, front transom glass, front show window, or steps, or over or on either side of the entrance to such house, apartment, building, or structure. Such number shall be of paint, enamel, or metal at least 4 inches in height and placed in such a manner as to be in plain view. What we want to add to that paragraph is any property that has rear access by a street, avenue, or alley must display house numbers at the rear of the property as outlined in this paragraph.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Butler. Any questions on that motion?
I
Anyone?
do have a question, not on the motion, but as I read this, it says in section 64-2, duty to display the number. It shall be the duty of the owner or person in control of any residence to display a residence number within 30 days after being notified to do so by the Borough Police Department in accordance with chapter 64-3. What does the 64-3 is the location and the materials and the size. Do we want to continue to have that be that ambiguous where you don't have to have a number until you're told to have a number?
I don't know if they're referring to, you don't have a number. I mean, 30 days after being notified to do so by the Borough Police Department. If there's no number, or you're failed to display a number, or it's not 4 inches high, Dave sends a letter out.
Right.
So I'm not sure what his letter, if his letter says within 30 days, or.
So Karen, your question is, It should say code enforcement versus police department.
Well, that also, and, I mean, ambiguously, it says you need to be told to do it.
See, I read it as you need to have it, but if you don't have it, you have 30 days to remedy it.
64.5, put that.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so 64.5 covers.
Addresses that,
The
but we
64.5
probably should
addresses it?
say code enforcement instead of police if we're gonna be doing this ordinance.
In 64-2.
Yeah.
Well, you can amend your motion to include that.
What do you think?
Realistically, though, would he be the one that identifies that, or would
Yes.
Dave be the one that
No.
identifies?
No, Dave generally does. The way we've been doing it is if there is an issue, then it's brought to Dave's attention and he issues the notice. Or whoever, so George Jack, I think actually
Should be
started that.
code
Maybe
enforcement
both?
or borough police.
Yeah, Borough Police Department or code.
Okay, so you're amending it to include or code enforcement officer in, what is that, 64?
64-2.
64 J. Okay, so the motion's been amended.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second by Mr. Butler. Now, are there any questions on that motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes.
Okay, number 3 is the collection standards and regulations. That's 154-5, collection standards and regulations. There's 2 pages, I printed out the whole ordinance. And the committee agreed on item A, is the municipality shall provide for the collection of all garbage, rubbish, and bulky waste from individual residences and multifamily residential sources with less than, it says 3 units. The committee suggests we make it 4 units. Or it may contract with a private, like most of the apartment buildings in the borough, collect with either the same removal company we have a contract with or their own. And B, all households and homeowners shall utilize the residential collection service provided by the municipality. Period. We want to eliminate the following language, unless they can demonstrate they have made alternate arrangements that are consistent with this article and approved by the municipality.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is everybody clear on that now?
And I say I'm not going to read the whole thing, but any.
That was the only changes, but that was the
That's
changes
the
in those
only-
2
right,
sections.
that's the
Everything else remains the same.
Right,
Okay, do we have a
everything
second?
else remains the same.
Second.
Can I ask a question on that? Was there any catalyst for it being changed from 3 to 4?
I think our contract with waste
Article
management
C.
does say.
Article, yeah, if you look
Okay.
at, C, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't want to read the whole thing, but if you look at C, it kind of it matches with the 3 units there at C. More than 3, so that's why it said less than 4.
Each other.
Yeah.
We're good.
Because you probably have some 3 units that are one house that have 3 units in it, and so just to,
Yeah, there's.
that should still be covered under that. So, any other questions on that motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes.
The last one is the fence ordinance, and it's Article 89. And again, I put the whole fence ordinances in here, and basically, we wanted, it's 89-3, A through E, or A through D. Presently, we wanted to add an E, and we go like A and B, retaining walls, masonry is just going over the materials the fence could be made of. And the fences shall be located on the inside of the property line. And D gets into the on the corner visibility issues. But we wanted to add an E, which is fences installed in the rear of the property that abuts an alley shall have a 3-foot setback from the rear property line. And this avoids a lot of fences in the alleys that are actually erected on right-of-ways and such. That's the reasoning for this.
I have a question, and it's for the solicitor. Would this be considered a change to the zoning
Well,
ordinance?
let's title 89,
Anybody have this book here?
I thought zoning was all 189.
I thought since we're talking about setbacks,
Right by 80.
Actually,
All right, 89 Spence's is outside the zoning.
Okay.
My question is this retroactive?
No,
no,
I didn't think so, but I wanted to.
no.
moving forward for the, I mean, you have.
Basically, it's just establishing a 3-foot setback on the alleys, because over the years, everybody's encroached and encroached and encroached on that cartway on those alleys, and now there's hardly anything left of the alleys, so we wanna make sure, this point going forward, that we keep that line where it is.
So if they have to do a repair, then they'll then have to do the
I
same.
don't know if a repair would fall into that category, but, installation, a new installation, I would think, or if you had to get
Yeah,
a
it's
permit
gotta
to
be-
replace your fence or something, you would have to do it.
Anytime you have to apply for a permit,
Okay.
come up.
So any other questions on that motion?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that motion? Do I have a second, please? Second. Second by Mr. Butler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes.
That's all I have, Mr. President, thank you.
Okay, I know you guys, we've been way behind on that, and you guys have done a really good job trying to get us caught up and working with Mr. Morgan, and I appreciate it. Any questions for building and zoning? Thank you, Rick. General Government, Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a motion to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $441 for the annual dues to participate in Connect, which is the Congress of Neighboring Communities, which is a organization of 42 to 45 communities that border the city limits. Mostly urban type communities that have similar demographics and transportation and so forth. This is a motion to join that organization for a year and participate in all their initiatives. They've already helped us with our transit-oriented design initiatives. So this is just us officially joining after hanging out with them for about a year and a half. That's my motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Dixon. Any other questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes, was that a chicken? Greg, thanks for keeping us up to date on it. I know you've been attending all those meetings and were the reason why we got that TOD grant,
You're
so
welcome.
thank you very much.
And they gave me some information, I'll put it in your mailbox. The current initiatives, future initiatives,
Great.
past initiatives, kind of an executive summary of the last year of what they've done. Other than that, I'm thinking of buying another camera. Unfortunately, I know we just got that one, but I've been looking for audio accessories for that, and it's discontinued, so Sony doesn't even support it anymore. I can't find anything that will fit the jack for that camera that would get us better audio. So I did put this information in this lunar module looking thing in your mailbox. It's a webcam. We would have to stream the meetings live on Google Hangouts or something like that. I'm gonna look into that. So I would have to have a laptop on my desk to do it. But it also comes with a remote so that I can control the camera. It has 180-degree field of vision.
We have a laptop in the back.
Yeah.
That we
just,
were using for code.
that doesn't mean we have to broadcast it live. We're just gonna push into some kind of streaming media, and we can save it and then dump it onto the website.
Sounds good.
So,
Does 185?
with
185?
185,
Oh,
yeah.
that's not bad. And you're confident that
And
this will fill our needs?
There's all the specs. It's a 10. It's high def.
Sounds good to me.
1280 by 720.
It says that clearing is 8 feet.
The
In
audio.
other words, if it goes further than 8 feet, so that means that it will be pretty much in the center of the room here.
That's where I would want to keep it. So we can just do 180. Set it somewhere in the middle on a small table.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting is that we also get some kind of podium with it to
Yeah.
record it.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
get some kind of little.
And if that audio doesn't work, it has a USB. That, all the audio these days are USB too. That doesn't have a USB port on it.
And-
So if it ends up not working out, we can get external microphones.
Okay.
I think you would have to add to that the cord for it. No, it's on the back page.
Oh,
It references the 16-foot cord.
Yes.
It's not that expensive, but I think we have to add that to that.
Cool. Anybody, do we want to just order this?
What's that?
You confident with this? You got good with it?
Yeah, you know, I did a lot of research. I couldn't find much else.
Let's just go with it.
Camcorder wise, it got really expensive. I think it's worth a try. It got really good
It's
reviews.
not a lot of risk for $185.
Right.
No, let's make a motion. Let's just do it.
Okay. So a motion to purchase the Logitech Conference Cam from Amazon with, yeah, I guess in a table.
We'll just do the table. We'll figure out what we need. We'll get a table.
Electrical cord. Not to exceed,
Two.
$200.
That's fine.
Second.
Second by Ms. Dixon. Any questions on the motion? Roll call.
Yeah, you might have to
Yeah.
push it over to 100. Only because with tax and stuff like that.
We don't pay.
Well, that's true. It's gonna be really close.
Well, if we need to buy a table and cords and everything else, we can just go do that. We don't need purchase.
Yeah, that's, okay.
Yeah, so we know, the two will get us the camera,
So the camera not to exceed
Yeah,
200.
yeah, camera not to exceed 200. Okay, any other questions on that? Where we at?
We're ready for
Roll call.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes, thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
That's all.
Any questions for general government? Thank you, Greg. Highways, Health, and Sanitation, Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a few ordinances tonight. So we looked at that Berry Street, intersection as Mr. Smith was, addressing earlier. And a solution was come to by engineering, traffic study. And we went forward with that and put that in and, listen, Mayor, do you know if there's been any accidents up there?
Not that I've heard of.
Okay. So that eliminated, some of those hazards that were happening. So I'd like to, at this time, motion to advertise the ordinance number 1 of 2020, amending chapter 179, vehicles and traffic, section 28, stop intersection, to establish a stop intersection at the intersection of Berry Street and Mainscape.
Second.
Motion's been made, second by Mrs. Wolford. Any questions on the motion? So this is, just to clarify, so this is just, it was experimental, and this is just advertising to make it official.
Right.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes. So far, so good on that.
Okay, and I also would like to, advertise to establish some stop signs that are currently, located by the island, by Middletown and East Steuben. We actually, have responsibility for that island, so we wanna make sure that we have responsibility for those stop signs and can, enforce those stop signs. So a motion to advertise, I believe, ordinance number 7.
Three.
Well, aren't we gonna have ordinances from Mr.
Oh,
Smith
yeah.
for each one of those items?
Think
So
right.
would that be ordinance number 7?
6, 7.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, and would I need to establish those for both directions, or would it just be one ordinance, Mr. Solicitor, or two?
Well,
Okay,
I think this is it.
okay. So, a motion to advertise ordinance number 7, of 2020, amending chapter 179, vehicles and traffic, section 28, stop intersections, to establish a stop intersection at the intersection of Middletown and East Steuben in the northernly and also in the southeast directions.
Okay. It's the stop signs that are already there. We're just making them official since the city was enforcing those before. Yeah, there's two.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Any questions on the motion?
Was there additional discussion on the yield sign?
We already
an
have,
ordinance for it.
we already have a stop sign. We already have an ordinance for that yield sign.
Okay.
Oh, so it was it?
Yeah,
It's
we
gone.
had.
But then we have an ordinance for it, so that'll get put
The
back.
yield sign is gone, but we have an ordinance already.
Okay.
We always knew that was ours.
Okay. Any other questions on that motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilford?
Yes.
Mr. Nucci?
Yes. All right.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Highways, Health, and Sanitation? Thank you, Karen, Parks and Recreation.